Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're looking at something that, well, it might sound a bit niche at first glance, the global market for Salacia. But stick with us, okay? Because it's actually a really fascinating example of, where traditional medicine kind of bumps up against modern health trends and all the market stuff that goes with it.
Yeah, exactly. We've been digging into this market research report from Cognitive Market Research, and it really zeroes in on the top manufacturers, the companies actually doing the work in this space.
Right, understanding who's who and what they're up to.
Pretty much.
And our mission here really is just to pull out the key stuff from this analysis, quickly, insightfully. We want to get a handle on what Salacia even is, why the market's growing, who the big fish are, who's maybe challenging them, and what it takes to actually make a go of it here.
Key to focused.
Exactly. No getting lost in the weeds, just the core insights you need.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. What exactly is Salacia?
Well, the report tells us it's basically this genus of woody plants. And what makes it stand out is its history. I mean, it's got deep roots in Ayurvedic medicine.
Okay, so traditional use. But the modern interest isn't just, historical curiosity, right? This analysis highlights some key properties.
That's right. They talk about it having anti-diabetic effects, anti-obesity, antioxidant. These are the buzzwords driving interest now.
And there's some science behind that. Specific compounds.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting, the science validation part. They mention specific active compounds, salacinol and cotylenol.
Salacinol and cotylenol. Okay.
And the data suggests they work by inhibiting certain enzymes in your body, the ones that metabolize carbohydrates.
Ah, okay. So inhibiting those enzymes. What's the effect?
Well, the thinking is it helps regulate blood sugar levels, and that's the big connection, why it's being looked at as potentially, a complementary approach for managing type 2 diabetes. Gotcha. So the traditional use kind of opened the door, but the modern science is really what's creating the buzz now.
Exactly. It's that combination. Ancient wisdom meeting modern validation, basically.
Pretty cool. Okay, so let's talk market size. We said it's niche, but what are the numbers looking like?
Right. So the report puts the market size at USD 3.1 million for 2024.
3.1 million.
And the projection. It's expected to grow to about USD 4.34 million by 2032.
All right, so that's a decent jump over, 8 years or so?
Yeah.
Is there a growth rate figure for that? A sheet?
There is, yeah, a compound annual growth rate of 4.30%.
4.3%.
Now, okay, the total market size, 3 or 4 million, isn't huge compared to, say, the overall pharma industry, obviously.
Sure.
But that 4.3% CAGR, it indicates this steady, consistent rise. It suggests it's not just some flash in the pan, There's real momentum.
Okay, so what's fueling that momentum? What are the drivers behind that 4.3% growth?
Well, a few key things seem to be lining up according to the analysis. You've got this general trend, right? More interest in herbal remedies, plant-based nutrition.
We see that everywhere.
Totally. And there's a bit of a resurgence, maybe, of traditional medicine globally. Plus, consumers are just more aware now. They're actively looking for natural therapy options.
Especially for certain things.
Yeah, especially for metabolic health issues, things like diabetes support, weight management. Plant-based solutions are really in demand there. And like we just talked about, that growing body of scientific validation, that definitely broadens its appeal.
Right, makes it more credible. Plus, you just have the overall trend towards organic botanical supplements in general. Salacia fits neatly into that box.
Absolutely. And because of all that, you see Salacia extracts being used in, well, a whole range of things. Capsules, tablets, powders, sure, but also herbal teas, even functional foods. It's pretty versatile.
Interesting. Okay, let's switch tracks a bit. Let's talk about the companies involved. The analysis names the top players based on, well, a few criteria, right?
Yeah.
Sourcing, quality.
Yeah, sourcing, quality control, how they extract the active compounds, and regulatory compliance. Those seem to be the main benchmarks used.
And given where Salacia comes from, India, Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, I imagine sourcing is a big deal.
Oh, hugely important. The report really underscores the need for sustainable sourcing and, crucially, traceable supply chains. That seems kind of foundational if you want to be a serious player here.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. If you can't guarantee where your stuff comes from and that it's, ethical and consistent, you're starting on shaky ground.
Yeah.
So who are these top companies? Who's leading the pack?
Okay, the analysis points to 5 main leaders based on market share. At the top, you've got Natura Biotechnol. They hold about 12.3% of the market.
Natura Biotechnol. What's their story? What makes them number one?
Well, they're described as a global pioneer in this space, using advanced extraction techniques, a strong focus on nutritional supplements and functional food ingredients. They also mention GMP certification, that's good manufacturing practices, a key quality standard, and that they're investing in clinical validation.
Okay, quality and science focus. Then number two is Sammy Labs, around 10.5% share.
Yeah, Sami Labs. They're noted for, interestingly, integrating the traditional Ayurvedic knowledge with modern technology.
Hmm.
The report mentions their vertical operations, meaning they control more of the supply chain, which helps with that traceability we mentioned.
Right.
Their focus seems to be on glycemic control, weight management, cardiovascular support, and they apparently have significant clinical backing and even a patent portfolio.
Impressive. Okay, number three, Shanti Natural Extracts with about 8.4%. They sound like they might have a specific niche.
It seems so. The focus there is described as high-purity extracts, sourced with an emphasis on eco-sustainability, clean label, minimal processing. That seems to be their angle. Plus, that farm-to-extract traceability again.
Got it. Then all-season herbs at 7.4%.
All-season herbs sounds a bit broader. They have a wide portfolio of raw materials, powders. The report suggests they might focus more on cost-effectiveness and scalability, maybe supplying other manufacturers.
Oh.
They offer customizable potency extracts, too. And things like non-GMO, pesticide-free sourcing, ISO and HACCP compliance are mentioned. Those are international quality and safety standards.
Right, hitting those quality marks. And the last of the top five is Noble Areca Nut and Herbs with 6.5%.
Yeah, Noble Areca Nut. They're positioned as more of a rising player, again, integrating traditional knowledge, but maybe with a stronger focus on regional sourcing and working with local communities.
Interesting.
They seem to primarily supply the Ayurvedic medicine sector and natural health products, and apparently they're also doing research to validate some of the traditional uses.
Okay, so you've got these established players, each with slightly different strengths, often mixing that heritage with modern science or quality standards. But is the market just these five, or are others trying to break in? Is it dynamic?
Oh, it's definitely dynamic. The analysis explicitly identifies several companies as emerging players and potential threats to those leaders.
Okay, interesting. Who's on that list?
Let's see. SA Herbal Bioactives LLP, VPL Chemicals PVT Ltd, Princeton Vitamins LLC, Swanson Health Products Inc., and also Peanut Products.
That's a varied group. Swanson, obviously a big name in supplements online. How are these companies shaking things up? What are they doing differently?
Well, they seem to be using different tactics. SA Herbal Bioactives, for instance, the report mentions their vertical integration and certifications again, signaling quality and supply chain control.
Right.
VPL Chemicals is apparently diversifying its product lines, moving into functional foods maybe, and aligning with global standards. Princeton Vitamins is likely leveraging its existing distribution networks and maybe using more modern delivery systems like specific capsules or tablets.
Makes sense. And Swanson.
Well, Swanson has that huge e-commerce platform and customer base, right? So reach and loyalty.
Yeah.
And companies like Peanut Products might be focusing more on local sourcing, maybe offering competitive pricing, potentially targeting traditional Ayurvedic channels or functional foods again.
So it sounds like innovation in product or delivery, nailing those certifications, smart distribution, maybe price competition. Those are the ways these newer players are trying to get traction.
Exactly. And the analysis doesn't just stop there. It actually offers some pointers, like guidelines, for new companies thinking about entering the Salacia market. It's almost a mini playbook.
Okay, now this is really interesting for anyone actually looking at this industry.
Yeah.
What are the absolute must-dos the analysis highlights for potential newcomers?
Right. So first and foremost, quality is king. You absolutely need to develop high-quality, standardized extracts. That means consistent levels of those key active compounds, the salacinol and codolinol we talked about.
So you can't just, grind up the root and stick it in a bottle. It needs proper processing and standardization.
Precisely. And that, naturally, means investing in R&D, in modern extraction technologies.
Yeah.
The report even mentions things like solvent-free methods or green chemistry tapping into that clean product demand.
Okay, so standardized extracts. What else?
You need to clearly target that metabolic wellness angle, but this is crucial with science-backed health claims. And that has to go hand in hand with rigorous regulatory compliance.
Ah, the regulations.
Yeah, you need things like GRAS status in the U.S., generally recognized as SAFE or FSAI approval in India, their food safety standard. You absolutely have to navigate those hurdles.
Non-negotiable. What about market focus?
Good point. The advice is to strategically target specific regions, especially emerging markets. Think Asia Pacific, Latin America, and maybe forming local partnerships there could give you an edge.
And the products themselves. Any advice there?
Yeah, developing specific formulations or delivery methods. The report suggests things like gummies, specialized teas, maybe fortified foods, ways to reach niche consumer groups, maybe younger people into wellness, or older folks needing specific support.
Makes sense. And I bet sustainability comes up again.
Oh, absolutely. Big time. Embracing sustainability across the entire chain, how it's harvested, packaged, sourced, and getting those certifications USDA organic, fair trade, non-GMO project verified. The analysis positions these not just as nice to haves, but as real competitive differentiators that consumers are looking for.
It really sounds like being genuinely sustainable and transparent is becoming table stakes in this space.
It really does seem that way. And then finally, branding. You need effective branding that somehow manages to weave together that traditional Ayurvedic heritage with, modern wellness trends, telling a compelling story.
That balancing act again, tradition and science, ethics and appeal. Okay, so pulling this all together,
Yeah.
what's the final takeaway? What's the overall outlook for the Salacia market based on this analysis?
The conclusion seems to be expect moderate but stable growth. It's not going to explode overnight, perhaps, but it's got solid footing. And that growth is really being driven by those big picture needs, metabolic health solutions globally, and that ongoing shift towards botanical, plant-based remedies.
And future success really hinges on getting that blend right. Standardized extracts, scientific proof, health-focused products, sustainability, transparency.
Exactly. The analysis is pretty clear on that. Companies that really nail the integration of eco-conscious sourcing, have those traceable supply chains, and prioritize clean label production, they're the ones likely to have a significant edge going forward.
And strategic partnerships could play a role too.
Yes, definitely. Collaborating with established wellness brands, maybe academic institutions for more research, or even organizations rooted in traditional medicine systems. All of that can help build trust, credibility, and expand reach.
So ultimately, the key levers for growth are seen as innovation, tailoring things regionally, and educating consumers.
That's the summary. But underpinning it all is that central theme we keep coming back to, that crucial balance. Integrating robust, modern scientific validation, while also deeply respecting and leveraging that traditional medicinal knowledge.
It's not about choosing one over the other.
No, it's about finding the power and the synergy between them.
So why does all this matter to you, listening right now? Well, I think this whole Salacia case study is a really neat illustration of how ancient practices, things refined over centuries, can get validated by modern science, and how that can unlock entirely new market opportunities in health and wellness.
Yeah, and it really highlights how, even in what seems like a niche global market, these forces, consumer demand for natural products, scientific rigor, ethical sourcing, transparency, they're becoming incredibly powerful drivers. It's kind of a microcosm of bigger shifts in the whole health industry.
It really makes you think about the journey of knowledge itself, doesn't it? From, ancient traditions and practices to lab testing and complex global supply chains.
It absolutely does. A fascinating journey.
Thinking about this growing market for a traditional herb like Salacia, now validated by science and being shaped by these global demands, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other insights from ancient traditions might just be waiting out there for their moment in the modern health spotlight?
That's a really interesting question to ponder.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the Salacia market.